Welcome back to Perfectly Paranormal, episode 137. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. They truly don't. And today you're going to hear a dad's struggle about how to talk to his young children aged 3 and 6 about the death of a relative. Now, both kids are very psychic, and I made some very practical suggestions to help the family and to help the children understand death, their mum's grieving, and not to be afraid if grandma pops in to see them in spirit form in the middle of the night. And I will say before we start that I am not a medically trained doctor or a psychologist or a grief counsellor, but I am purely sharing the following information from an energy worker's perspective. Now, I've worked with Ben a lot, with Ben, his family and his home, and he felt that he could trust me and come to me for advice on where to start when his partner lost her grandmother, when her grandmother passed away. And Ben, knowing that his children are very, very psychic, was a little bit concerned that great-grandma might pop in to see them. And the children might be frightened, and this in turn might upset his wife and the actual whole family structure day and night. So I got to thinking about the best way to approach Ben's situation, and this was my response. And I hope that this information that I share today might help other people who may have very psychic children in their house too, because you can talk to children about death. And my response to Ben's email: Hi Ben, I'm very sorry to hear about your wife's grandmother's passing. And I bet she's going to be watching over all of you with lots of love for everyone. And I have some suggestions on how you can talk to your youngsters about death, because being very open to the spiritual and the paranormal worlds, they might get a visit or two from great-grandma in spirit, and I know that they're going to be frightened and possibly confused and anxious, can't sleep, and possibly not being able to even tell you what they are seeing or feeling. Now, I've worked with young children as a teacher assistant at a local primary school for many, many years. Young children love books, and that got me thinking. The visuals, the pictures, the colours, and the way that the story is shared through the images, and the way that it's written as well, the storytelling aspect. Now, this would be a relatable approach for a 3 and a 6-year-old. So I suggested to Ben finding some books specifically written for approximately 3 to 6-year-old children that can help them understand death, and that you can mention how our beloved relatives like to sometimes watch over us from heaven, and they might even pop in to say hello now and again. How you might see them in a dream, or they might sit on your bed or tuck you in or sing you a song. It's all completely normal. Society makes it not normal. I didn't put that in Ben's email, but that really does. Society makes dealing with the paranormal world or the spirit world, makes it scary and frightening. And really it isn't. I mean, I've had my dad visit me in spirit form numerous times. It's never scary. It's always loving, and it always has a warm, loving feeling that comes with it. But for young children that don't understand about death to start with, they don't even know what it is sometimes. It's not part of their world. It can be a struggle for them to understand. So I looked online. I thought, well, if I'm going to send Ben has his wife grieving at the moment, and he's also got the children to care for as well. And I thought, well, I'm going to give him a heads up. I'm going to give him somewhere to start. So I had a look online. And there are a lot of books online about approaching grief and death for youngsters of all different ages. So I put in the approximate age that I was looking for, and I found some suggestions. And I also suggested to Ben about approaching local libraries or grief counsellors who may work specifically with children, as they might have lots of suitable books on hand, or they can suggest them online that you can purchase. So I got onto the web and I was drawn instantly to a book called Something Very Sad Happened. Thought if I give Ben a starting place, it'll give him some hope and he might have a look around and find something a book that he is drawn to read with his children and his wife, and they can all share it together as a family. Now, this particular book, Something Very Sad Happened, is written at a developmental level, about 3 to 4 year olds. And it uses very gentle, age-appropriate language that has been psychologically researched and gives lots of information for parents and caregivers, and also guidelines for answering children's questions, because kids are going to have questions. Some children question everything. They want to know the ins and outs of everything, because kids are going to wonder about death. What is it? Why does it happen? Will it happen to me at some stage? And why others in their families are sad about the death of a loved one. I was really drawn to that book. And there were lots of other books. There was one called Nana Upstairs, Nana Downstairs, and What Happens When a Loved One Dies. So I really suggest, if there's anyone listening out there that needs to approach this topic, see some grief counsellors, see a psychologist, or go to a local library and ask if they have specific books on this topic. Because the visuals and the language that are used really do help children understand. And as much as they're designed for children, I find that when they're read with the family, you can imagine that everyone is going to benefit. They're sitting there as a family and they're reading the story, they're sharing their experiences, they're bringing it all out into the open, they're not bottling it up. And that is really, really important. And I know I'm not a doctor, but I am speaking from a mum's perspective. Before continuing our spooky content, I'm excited to announce that you can now text my podcast. Yes, indeed, with a question or a comment, or even suggest a paranormal topic for a future episode. The feature doesn't allow me to respond to your text, but I will indeed give you a shout out in a future episode. And if you're interested in leaving a text, you'll find the text link in the show notes. So let's get back to our episode. And I'll never forget, and I'm going to share this, but there's no names. When I worked as a teacher assistant, there was a young boy, I think he was about 5 or 6, who had cancer, and he passed away. Now, a lot of the children were stressed. They were traumatised. I was the TA, I was the teacher assistant in their classroom that day. And generally, teacher assistants, you aren't allowed to, children don't hold your hand or sit on your knee, or you don't hug them. There's none of that personal contact. But there was a little girl that was just crying, and she was looking for someone to give her a hug. She came straight up to me. I mean, who am I to deny a child who is grieving for the loss of her classmate and her friend? Who am I to deny her a hug? And I was in a room with other adults. That's always got to be in consideration when you work with children. Everyone saw this child hug me and me give her a hug back. She needed comfort. So I do wonder if schools have these books for these situations. And I don't know how the school handled it. I can't remember. I think they had a counsellor on hand to speak to the children, speak to the parents. It was a very long time ago, but I still remember giving that child a hug. And I can imagine when a family is reading a book and talking about grandma or great-grandma or Pop has passed away, everyone can be hugging and they can be talking about it. And it brings it out in the open, and then people don't bottle it up and grieve on the inside. So kids that are very psychic, well, I didn't find any books online that talk about loved ones in spirit form coming to visit, because that's probably a little bit woo-woo for people who write books most of the time. And the psychological fraternity probably would frown on that slightly. But as we all know, that smell of grandma's scones, that person sitting on the bed, smelling Nana's favourite roses, my dad driving around in the passenger seat with me in his little silver Hyundai Getz for many, many years. That was his car, and I kind of inherited it when it was doing nothing in the garage. And I thought, right, I'm going to make the use of Dad's little car. And every now and again, I would see him in the passenger seat. Just a fleeting glimpse and a smile on his face. The paranormal is totally normal. That's why I do this podcast. So I hope you've gained something that you can use or that you can share with someone else who may be grieving or who has psychic children, who wonders about Nana in spirit. You can talk to them about death. Talk to them about how past relatives might come and visit. It's not harmful. It's not frightening. They are just having a look. They're just coming to let you know that they're okay and that they love you and that they just want to see you every now and again. And the last thing I'll say is that kids, psychic kids and all kids really, are never too young to understand death because it's part of life. It really, really is. It shouldn't be something that's pushed aside and taboo and not talked about. And seeing past relatives in spirit form, in their dreams, it's absolutely normal. And I've already said that. I am repeating myself. It's one of my negative habits. But it's just so important to think about. Really, really is. So in episode 138, you're going to hear about universal balance between light and dark, good and evil, and how we humans fit into it all. And I'm going to share some of my experiences about overstepping the balance and how I had to pay for it. Because energy workers, oh my goodness, we all start out and we have our ups and downs and we have to learn along the way. And the entities will let you know when you overstep the universal balance. So join me next week and I look forward to spending time with you then. If you like the content of this episode today, please think about leaving me a rating and a review. What reviews do is they let other people know your thoughts about my supernatural subject matter. People love reading reviews, and we're spreading the word about the real paranormal world around us. I would really appreciate it. And if you like this episode, you want to learn more about the paranormal, I'm always sharing new information that nobody else does. Please hit the subscribe button. Send me a comment. Send me one of your stories. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.